right, but weekends out there. This is your boy, the comic guru Eli, coming with y'all with my man Danny, my man Kurt.
What's happening?
And my man Alan.
Sitting in for Lee Lastovica.
Sitting in for Lee Lastovica, young Lee.
Who doesn't believe in watching Disneyplus shows.
Not yet. Not yet. But he will after this.
Not when they have to do it Marvel. No. These got better things to do.
Yes. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the reins here for YouTube, and we're going to talk about the Loki series, well, at least the first episode of it, that came about. And so just to get some quick thoughts, what do we think? What are some strengths of the show that we liked? Just kind of go around really quick, say what we love.
2 words.
2 words.
Tom Hiddleston.
Yes.
That's about it.
That's it?
Yeah, he stars in the series. What about him?
he's the strong point of the series.
You like him as Loki?
He's not the only strong point.
I love this acting, especially that one particular scene where he's watching the I guess can't say a playback, but the play forward of his life. That was, I almost started crying just watching his reaction to things that were coming, especially the part where he saw what happens to his mother.
Okay.
And where he sees Odin actually, call him his son.
And his brother.
You're tearing up right now.
I know.
He's standing shoulder to shoulder with Thor. That's something at this point in time that this Loki that we're seeing, that's Avengers. That him and Thor did not like each other.
He was very angry. That was a very angry Loki.
Yeah, and he's seeing what eventually happens to him and Thor, and they're standing side by side. And Odin is telling he loves it basically and everything, and seeing him tear up. That amazing performance.
That was a great a great continuity thing that they did on Marvel Studios point, because it kind of transported the character from that very 2012 Avengers Loki, and then he kind of sees what his life's going to be, and all of a sudden he's in the same place he was when he died for the most part, at least emotionally. So he can push forward with the character rather than having to go through all those stages again, if you will.
I just missed the Avengers in it, but I hear you.
And that was the point. When you realize that he's not the Loki we know, the dead one now. He's the Loki that he was after the first Avengers. He was evil. He was trying to take over the world. He wanted to rule. He wanted to be a god king, and that's all he wanted. Hated Thor, hated his father, and just broke down in tears. And you can see this realization come over him.
Well, I think that y'all are giving Tom Hiddleston a lot of praise here, and I think it's well deserved. But I do think that Owen Wilson deserves a lot of praise as well, because I never thought that man could be entertaining unless he was sitting across from Vince Vaughn.
Or Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
Possibly. But my God, is he not brilliant in his role, as the way he takes Loki and kind of breaks him down and breaks him apart and tears him down to build him back up again, just kind of see who are you, what are you made of, and that kind of smarmy, cocky way he does it with, it reminded me a little bit of Silence of the Lambs, but like more lighthearted and funny, which it was like Clarice in Hannibal Lecter, but done in a more playful, fun way.
And he eventually ends up getting exactly what he wants out of Loki.
Yeah,
when he comes back into the office.
Because I've never been the biggest Loki fan. I kind of thought Loki was kind of a prissy little douche, to be honest with you. And he came across, as time went on, he kind of grew on me, but he never grew on me as somebody I really cared all that much about until this series. So I kind of felt that he delivered an exceptional performance, but I also believe a lot of credit needs to go Owen Wilson's way for helping to make, that whole entire interrogation scene, I was hanging on every word. I really was.
Did he say wow even one time?
No, he did not say wow. I'm sure it's coming at some point in time, but no, he did not say wow.
He did have that weird swarminess when he was talking to the judge, Owen Wilson. He was like, yeah, I like this. I like being underused. It's great. Like, he always has that weird kind of...
So appropriate.
Yeah, so appropriate.
It's like Wedding Crashers meets...
exactly.
Mobius.
Yeah, it's a weird character. He doesn't intimidate me, but yeah, he was cool when they broke it down to what an antagonist was, when Loki just kind of said, yeah, I'm the villain, like I get it. Like I thought that was really like a nice breakthrough moment. For me, I like the world in this. Like, I don't usually say that, but like that is one of the few times I've actually watched a show where the character gets in the world and the world reacts around the character. Like, I was watching something like he would go down somewhere and the cat like skidded on the side, and I wish I could do that because cats are always just eating food around me and stuff. But like just the world that he was dealing with, he didn't know how it worked, but yet the world was just like freaking out around him.
In this strange world, I was wondering if that was one of the cats that scratched out Samuel L. Jackson's eye.
That would be good. If that cat ends up being a flirkin.
What?
That flirkin.
That crazy.
Yeah, that really? That's what you call him, a flirkin?
Is that something that lives in the
goose.
Kirk? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
No.
The Captain Marvel.
That's not a Kirk.
Okay.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
the way they kept showing, but no, I would agree with you on that. 1,000%.
Yeah,
that was what really kind of sucked me into the series, was when you get invested in the TVA and the way they introduce it, and man, I don't know how to compare it. Like, it was like a Beetlejuice kind of feeling to it.
Yeah.
Like when the Maitlands die and they go to the afterlife and they've got their little handbook, and then you go to the afterlife and it's just a very clerical, very procedural operation. You're like, wait a minute, this is the afterlife? There's staplers and there's filing cabinets. Are you kidding me?
It's so official.
It's so bureaucratic.
Maitland party at 2.
Exactly.
Go to the first door.
Yeah, you better pick up your ticket. That was funny.
It had me fascinated. It absolutely had me fascinated. I love that Jurassic Park style call out to Mr. DNA, complete with Southern accent and everything. I thought that was brilliant. How they use that. Because if there's going to be, the main negative to this show is that if you're an action buff, if you're an action guy, there's not a whole lot there. It's very heavy on exposition.
Yeah.
That just so happens to be what I like most. I hate the idea that, hey, we've got this great scene going where Owen Wilson and Loki are kind of verbally sparring with each other, but we need to interrupt that because we need an action sequence so Loki can escape periodic. Unnecessary.
I didn't mind that.
A setup.
Well, I didn't mind. What I thought was kind of cool was I didn't mind when he did the escape, because I really didn't even think he was. I knew he was going to try to escape, but I just didn't see how he could. And then when he made an attempt, and he had the girl, like that one guard that had captured him in the first place, she was like all back and forth at the time. Oh, that was trippy. Once he was figuring out how to work the world itself, I was like, oh, yeah, that's kind of neat. Like, it had a way of twisting and turning it, so it wasn't necessarily like, here's the protagonist, he just pushes forth. There are some parts where you're just like, yeah, sometimes he's in the back on this one, and then sometimes he can, make a headway forward. But, okay, so that was your one negative. Do we have some other negatives?
Oh, no, I have more negatives than that, but I think I have more positives. We're just going straight negative first?
I think we could, flip-flop, take one for one.
You call it, Marvel Guru. I'll do what you want, man.
All right.
I want to. So I don't understand why with the TVA. So they have access to all of time, presumably all of the past and all of the future.
Correct.
Why did they decide on a 70s style Art Deco kind of theming when they could have just gone straight? Like Matrix or something like that.
Because Men in Black already did it.
Okay,
I'm going to go with that.
Yeah.
Because Men in Black already did it. That's my answer. Or the Rest in Peace department. Or any of this.
A very 70s warm decor.
I love that aspect of it.
Felt like I was back home at Mom's house.
They had all this really cool technology, but it looks so mundane and boring. But when they used it, it's like, whoa, that's kind of cool.
It's scary.
Yeah.
It's kind of, what it reminds me of is like whenever you're riding Carousel of Progress and you get into that room where they think the future is going to look like. Mm-hmm. That's what that kind of reminded me of.
Yes. No, I can definitely see that.
I do not want a guy that is recording every word I say forever and ever. And then,
oh, yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, that was very crazy.
And then I said, I love you.
Yeah. What? Side here. Damn it. Sign again.
I thought it was brilliant.
I like that, yeah.
Double-sided copy paper, like the old style long real copy paper.
It's like one of those a dot matrix printer.
Yeah. You pull the thing off on the side.
With the holes on the side. Absolutely. No, that was brilliant.
If Loki's thousands of years old, wouldn't that stack have been a lot bigger?
I would have agreed.
Yeah.
For Loki, I thought that stack would have been a whole lot bigger. But whatevs. I mean, I'm not going to nitpick over that. I don't know, man. I really, I got to tell you, I'm a Star Trek fan, more Next Generation than regular Star Trek. And it was episodes when they got kind of into the mystery of time travel and little things that you would watch unfold that really kind of sucked me in. Being a Back to the Future fan, my favorite Back to the Future is number 2.
Yes.
Because that just had me engrossed from the start as you're sitting there wondering what the hell is going on. And you're on your edge of your seat waiting, and everything that they're saying is completely satisfying to explain why you're at where you're at. And I kind of got a very similar feeling from this. So before we get into positives and negatives, I mean, can we just give a grade on a scale of 1 to 10?
You want for the episode itself?
For the episode itself, just kind of so everyone knows where we stand.
Okay. All
because
right.
I'd put this easily at a 9, if not a 10.
So we're doing scale 1 to 10, 10 being the best. 1's the worst, 10's the best.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Ooh, all right. I could give it an 8.5.
8.5. Okay.
Yeah, I could give it 8.5.
Not bad.
Alan?
I'm going to say probably 7.5.
7.5.
Okay, and the only reason that... So, if Pulp Fiction is a 10, and, I don't know, some of Adam Sandler's work is, a 1 or a 2, I want to maintain, a fairly accurate grading scale. So I don't know what the series is going to be, where it fits into the whole thing. It was a lot of exposition for me, so I'm going with a 7.5.
Yeah,
See, okay, so that's the part I enjoyed. Kirk?
8.
8. Wow. So I'm the highest in this thing. I'm surprised by this. Okay, cool.
Yeah, because I do have some nitpicks. Of course, I hate, this is my problem with time travel crap, is because always going to have some, because things affect other things.
Fair enough.
Can't get to.
Fair enough.
So what's your,
let's get to that. Let's get to that. Hold up. But
what's your
before we go down there, though, I got one more question. All right, so there's been 2 other series. WandaVision,
okay,
Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Which one had the better premiere? Loki, Falcon and Winter Soldier, or WandaVision?
I don't say not
rank to 3. Rank to 3.
1 being the best.
1 being the best, 2 being the middle, 3, all that.
I gotta go Falcon, Winter Soldier, then Loki, then Scarlet Vision, WandaVision.
I've got no problem with that. I think I would put Loki, then Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then WandaVision.
Yeah, that's style. I get that.
Yeah. Falcon, Winter Soldier, Loki, and then WandaVision.
Yeah,
not bad. Okay.
I liked WandaVision, so I'm a big film and TV guy. So,
but the first episode,
I loved the first 2 episodes.
Okay.
So that's my favorite so far.
All right.
Then Loki, and then probably Falcon and Winter Soldier. But they're all pretty. I mean,
no.
No, it's not saying they're
splitting
terrible.
hairs. We're splitting hairs. Totally splitting hairs. Okay. Having said that, okay, E, go ahead.
Well, now, what's your number? What's your rank? Are you still holding that back?
I already said. I said I put that at a 9 or a 10.
Oh, okay.
It's somewhere in between there. I'm at a 9 or a 10 on that. I have little nitpicky things that I would rather them have done a little bit better, but for the most part, I'm really satisfied. I'm eager to see the next one. I can't wait to see the next one. I can't necessarily say that I felt that about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where I already knew where that was going.
Mm-hmm.
WandaVision, where I had no clue where it was going. And
absolutely.
No basis in which to orientate myself, so that way I have a decision to make as to whether or not this is a series I want to see the rest of. With this, I definitely want to see the rest of. I'm definitely intrigued, and I'm definitely in love with the concept. So
I would say that with Falcon and Winter Soldier, that just had me on, because I like the mythos of it. But yeah, that had like that whole political thing. Like we talked about that enough. So that had like that sense of realism.
Yeah.
And then like WandaVision is kind of like way out there. Mm-hmm. But this one, like Loki, it plays right in the middle where I watched it. I had some parts where I laughed at it, and it's like, yeah, I like the character too. It's just he's always in the movies. He's always in this weird kind of spot where it's like, I like you, no, I don't. You know, and you're back and forth. I kind of got this weird Ragnarok feel without the arcade sense to it.
The Sword, that's the name of that album, by the way. If you ever wanted to listen to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the name of the band that produced the album.
Oh, wow. All right. Thought you were going to say Sword like the...
Speaking of producing, this probably is a good moment to point this out.
Point it out.
Y'all may be like,
who's that guy?
Did y'all fire Kevin? No, Alan's our producer. Kevin had to go home.
Yes,
Kevin could not stay late and play with us heathens.
Kevin trusted Alan with all the equipment.
Yes, we have not gotten rid of Kevin.
Yes,
we have not gotten rid of Lee Lostovic is actually right over there in the corner. He just has not.
He's working on his next episode
because he was so invested in working on his episode.
Did you say he's on the next episode?
Yeah, he worked.
Chill to the next episode.
Hey, what?
All right, so go ahead.
So there was that weird segment to it, and I think that's kind of what keeps me engaged. But I'm kind of with you where they got all that weird time space continuum, this, that, and the other. Now I'm gonna say, and I'll see what you guys think. Like, I'm not sure how I feel about the Infinity Stones being so powerless that they're in some dude's drawer. I thought it was funny, but then I was like, well, damn, I mean, a lot of people died for nothing.
No, that's not what it means at all, dude.
Doc.
I know that's the path it was supposed to be and all that.
No, go ahead, Kirk.
So first off, before we get into that, Loki is going to be our last Disneyplus series until, what's the next one? What If, I think? The animated one?
Probably, because then you got Shang-Chi and then Doctor Strange 2.
So our last more Disneyplus series.
That's a movie.
In the MCU.
Yeah, I'm saying, we're not going to have,
So how about at the end, after this one's finished, all the 6 episodes are done, we either, on our own time or whatever schedule, rewatch WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, and this one all together. No, rewatch them, and then come back and either like do a ranking of all 3 series.
We could.
That's
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, we never finished the other 2, so we've watched them, but
we never stopped watching. Yeah, but
we never reviewed them.
Something else always came up. Yeah,
I said I don't know if we got to review them all individually. Just do a rank of what we did when we ranked just now. It was just for the premiere, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's it. That's it.
Do it.
Time will tell when it hits the 3rd or 4th episode of this series. That's really where you'll see what makes or breaks it.
Maybe started off so like Danny was saying, but when it got to like the 4th, 5th episode, it pick up. Mm-hmm. But it took 4 or 5 episodes to get there.
Yes.
Back to the Infinity Stones. I think that was a plot device more than anything.
Yes.
It was to kind of sell Loki on the TVA.
Yes.
More than to illustrate, not necessarily illustrate that they're not powerful. It's that in the grand central timeline, after
sacred timeline,
sacred timeline,
sacred.
They're no longer relevant after a certain point because they're destroyed.
That's where he had that moment where he's in that office space said, "Is this the ultimate power in the galaxy, the universe?"
Yeah,
remember?
Yeah.
He had that realization moment.
He started doubting himself.
And that's when he went back to the office, I think.
Yeah, it gave up. He kind of gave up, and yeah.
I completely agree with Alan on this one. It was so well done. The idea of, everything you thought you knew, you're nothing here. And that was really important. How do you get a god to acquiesce to the whims of what to him is just normal people? Mm-hmm. You prove to him that everything that he thought that he could overpower them with does not do nothing in this space. So I thought that the use of the Infinity Stones was perfect. They should have done that. The idea that does not, we're talking about time here, and that is a completely different playing field. Aside from what you guys do on Earth, this is beyond that. So I think that the use of the Infinity Stones was well done.
No, I hear you. It's trippy.
And in the same token, what the hell?
Right?
The
Right?
ancient one told us if an Infinity Stone is removed from his timeline, it creates a branch. You got a whole drawer full of them. So how many branches they got out there?
Chunks of it.
How many
chunks?
freaking branches they got on timelines? You done broke all the timelines. Oh no, we're in charge of keeping everything sacred timeline. You can put these things back where they go.
Yeah. How many timelines you guys
Why
split
did
up?
Black Widow die? She gave her life for crap.
Somebody just gave up, put the
Bring
wrong
her
place
back.
in the wrong drawer.
Take that stone, put it back. Give
all.
us Black Widow back.
No,
Give me ScarJo back. Take the damn orange stone back.
Joe back.
No, slow down there. Hold
Give
on.
it back. Give it back.
Hold up, wait a minute.
Well, no, wait, what you're saying is that because
man.
they had a drawer full of Infinity Stones, is that they were inconsequential?
Inconsequential?
Yes.
So
No, we were told by the ancient one that these stones are so important, so consequential that when you remove them from a timeline, it creates a branch.
They are when you're living within that timeline. The TVA,
where do those stones go?
whoa. The TVA is beyond that timeline, and that reality, that realm. The TVA lives beyond that, and so how do you most? I mean, you saw it at the very beginning. How does Loki break the timeline? He gets a hold of the Tesseract. That's not even the time stone. Yeah. Like, I'm not even sure how he did. He just picked it up.
Another whole other time. Yeah,
that would be like, if you want to critique it, that would be my critique. Is that, wait a minute, the Avengers intentionally broke the timeline by doing what they did.
But then they returned the stones.
Huh?
They returned the stones. That's the whole crux of what the TVA is doing.
Right, and so this is what makes sense to me, why the Tesseract is of such importance, because that's what they said, is that we're going to go ahead and return the stones to each timeline, and so it's like as if it never happened. But what was the one stone they couldn't return?
That particular version of
the Tesseract, exactly. Yeah. So when Loki does it, it kind of does make sense.
It breaks the timeline.
That was the one thing that broke the timeline.
I mean, yeah, but the thing is, like, and that's the thing where you have these, like, space-time elements that you put in the movies. It's almost like you just kind of have to, like, step back and then just let it happen. Because once you get, like, I'm with you, Kirk, I get emotionally invested too much. There's a lot of money I spent watching these movies and getting Disneyplus so I can relive these moments that apparently is in someone's dresser drawer that they use to, like,
that's
flick
not
like
fair.
a paper football.
Yeah, wait, you're not even close to being a paperweight.
Yeah, paperweight. Wait, no,
it's holding my bills down.
Yeah, hold my bills down. I'm just saying that I'm being objective in that I
not
know.
Really, no, you're being very subjective. I would say.
Well, okay, you
have a bias towards Infinity Stones. The minute you see Infinity Stones being used as paperweights, you're like, man, this is wrong.
It's the fact of, do you go?
Alan and I just broke down exactly why it would make sense.
I didn't argue that. I'm just saying it's just when you start to bring in those elements into it, because every time movie has its own rule. So this one is changing it. Totally get that. It's hard to keep in that constraint.
Is it concocting its own rule, I should say? Is it concocting its own rule, or is it just merely establishing that there is something higher and bigger and more at stake than what we've understood to this point?
Time passes differently in the TVA.
There you go.
Yeah, that's all sweet, good. And this is the thing, too. You can't really be a comic, buff in this sense. Because it's a different thing. It's a different media. Totally get it. I guess I have to conceal that I will go ahead and say I get where you're coming from, but I'm going with making their own rules. To me, that's just because we don't know what's gonna happen, and then they're also chasing a potential. Maybe do y'all want to get into that? There's a potential Loki. A potential Loki out there that they're tracking anyway.
It's a female Loki.
You think?
That's the rumor. That I've heard that as being a rumor.
You think it's another Loki, though?
That's what they said.
Oh,
I don't know.
He told the variant we're chasing is you.
Yeah, but that don't mean that it's them. You talking about the outside whims of time and space now.
In the beginning, when Mobius isn't talking to that kid in the church.
Yeah, the kablooey.
He acts. Yeah, kablooey. He asked that kid who did it, and she points to, and she
points to a devil.
Points to a picture of the devil with the horns. So of course, everybody goes off Mephisto because they got disappointed in WandaVision.
Yeah.
But Loki with his horn crown thing on.
Okay.
So, I think it all goes back to Loki.
That's
it's him.
fair. Okay.
He's the bad guy.
Time out.
Yeah.
All right. So why are we accepting this Marvel person's analysis? No. Totally, we're not doing that. Why are we just accepting that?
Accepting
because
what?
that is clearly a reference to Mephisto.
What, the window?
The window.
I mean,
He's saying.
I don't disagree with reference to Mephisto. But what I'm saying is Mobius tells him that we're chasing you. You're doing this. And the
Right.
hooded figure we see at the end basically sets these guys on fire, which that's something else. And it's the same things. And we're not showing them. So that's Loki. Now the kid points to the window and he says, who did this?
Yes.
And
He points to an obvious devil figure.
Yeah, but I'm thinking you see he maybe saw Loki with his horn crown on. Maybe that's what it's referencing.
Kablooey.
Well, first and foremost,
Kablooey.
the figure you see at the end is not wearing horn crown. The one with the hood on.
Not at that
big old
point.
hood.
That would be the first thing I would point out. Secondly, the person who said that, that's just a coincidence. We didn't mean for that to point to Mephisto. That was always supposed to be Loki. Is clearly a liar.
I don't know what person are you talking about.
Whoever denied that was Mephisto.
No, that's me. That's saying that could be a reference to Loki.
No. I'm saying there was a Marvel executive somewhere higher up that denied that was Mephisto.
Oh, you talking about
That she's making
Loki?
Yes.
Okay, that part of here.
Well, okay, so when you watch Loki, there's an obvious reference to who did it. The kid points to a devil.
Yeah.
And Owen Wilson says something like, we know that devil. That devil is afraid of us.
They're scared of us.
Exactly. Something to that effect. I don't remember if he personalized it by saying him, he, she, we, whatever the hell.
all the pronouns.
But
all the pronouns.
all the pronouns.
Inclusive.
But point being is that someone asked a Marvel executive about it and said, that's just a coincidence. We had it's an obvious.
Okay.
We
Didn't hear
meant
that
for
one.
it to allude to Loki because it had horns and obviously it was a mistaken BS that was meant to refer to Mephisto.
I mean,
I would have a hard time believing that
This
was
has to be
a.
the next big. There's no way. There aren't that many huge villains left.
There isn't.
this is what as far as what?
As far as well-known Marvel villains in terms of galactic level villains, like there's Galactus and there's Mephisto, and then there's like X-Men villains, and there's not really a whole lot left that they can throw into the MCU.
There isn't, and you know what would be
They
a
want
more,
to pay for it, like CGI on it. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
You know what would have been a more interesting ending when they said, no, what you call it, the villain that we're chasing is you, Loki. You know what would have been a more interesting villain for them to chase? Anyone. At that moment, it's like the villain we're chasing is you. You're kind of like, oh,
Yeah. See, that's that
like
space
this is
time
gonna be
stuff.
like, I was kind of deflated when he said that. And I'm not saying that the villain is Mephisto. I'm saying that the person who denied that window reference was a reference meant solely for Loki and it was just coincidence.
Whether
is a liar.
I
and
think-
why you take anything that person says seriously
whether or not it ends up being Mephisto, like you said, ends up being Mephisto in the end or not,
is irrelevant.
that's right. Because I think if it ends up not being him, then that was put in there as a troll for everybody who was all Mephisto in WandaVision, and then they all got pissed off when he wasn't. That was done for a troll for
And
these
I didn't
people.
realize that so many people were so hurt by this that they're like just blindly believing what this person's like. Yeah, clearly it's not Mephisto. And it's like, okay, like I remember the creators of Lost for years denied that it was purgatory, and it turned out to be purgatory.
How about this with Mobius and Loki are walking down the hall? Loki saying, I'm going to burn your place down. He's like, oh, well, and says, this place is a nightmare. And he's like, I'll help you burn that department down. Nightmare was another one that people were thinking, oh, maybe he's involved in WandaVision. So
Sure.
everybody's going off on that, too, saying, oh, maybe Nightmare's involved, too. It's like, just let the damn show go on.
Well, but it's always fun to speculate. I would take a real far reach, and I would go King. I would go King as
really?
Maven.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
no. Absolutely. No one
Yeah.
is saying that the villain has to be Mephisto. We're just saying is that is clearly misleading.
What the guy said?
Well, whatever the executive, I don't know if it was a guy or a girl.
Okay.
Whoever it was said it. I remember reading it, and they like just categorically denied that was a reference to Mephisto, that it was all coincidence, and that's just nonsense.
You don't do nothing coincidental if people are paying $50 million or whatever they paid to produce it. I thought Mephisto 2 on the window. I thought that.
Who didn't?
And
it was clearly
it's pretty clear, yeah.
a reference to Mephisto. It looked like a devil. They called him a devil. The fact that the rest of us were supposed to sit here and say Loki is ridiculous. No, it was, whether it turns out to be Mephisto or not, that was a clear reference to him.
I would, but the only reason I was going with saying maybe like a king as the main villain at the end is because these are timekeepers, right? I mean, now the main timekeepers, from what I remember in the books, those are those guys when you saw the judge, those big wooden heads in the back. In the comics, that's what they actually look like. I could pull up a picture right here if need be, but I would have liked to see them live. Like that'd have been kind of cool.
Didn't the one in the middle look a lot like King?
I mean,
I've heard that, yes.
But he's got a squiddy kind of face. Like literally the way he's drawn in the character.
The way that judge was sitting right in front of him, and they kept it right in focus on her, and with him behind.
Well, yeah,
it kind of looked like. I'm not saying it's him, but look, and his thing is time travel.
Now, I was gonna say now listen. I would back this up with saying like I have this Avengers Forever book. I won't go through what the whole thing is about, but basically in it, the timekeepers train another version of King to watch time, and he like turns on them. So think about this: if they're timekeepers, they are supposed to see the whole line, right? They just see the whole line. How can someone hide from that? How can they not know if it's Loki or the devil or whatever? You got the whole timeline. You got Infinity Stones watching your paperweights. I think it's King. I think it did that. That's what I'll go with on the far reach. I don't have any sort of call it.
Well, I mean, I would say, yeah. Well, obviously, because so many people violate the timeline, that regardless of whether or not you knew a time violation was coming or not, they've kind of established the idea that you can't stop it.
They can't stop this dude. Or person, whoever it is, you can't stop.
Well, not just him, any of them. Even the guy from Goldman Sachs that you saw in the elevator, clearly.
Yeah, what did they do to get him? He had it coming.
What did that guy do?
I would love to know. Clearly, it had something to do with the market crash.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
When I saw that, when the guy was yelling Goldman Sachs, and then he gets pardon me, he gets evaporated in the next scene. I'm like, there got to be some kind of metaphor to what's going on right now.
I guess so. Nobody's taking tickets.
Somebody creating that series had some money invested with Mr. Madoff, I think.
Something on the cinema. Something happened.
CEO of GameStop into the next Loki episode.
Yeah. Disappears. Yes.
But yeah, no, I have no problem with that because they kind of established that. Like, yeah, you don't have to. I mean, it's not like it's not Minority Report where we show up before you commit the crime and stop you from committing the crime.
Right.
You have to actually commit the crime for somebody to kind of step in and take notice of it. What I would say that I do have a problem with is intent. Because like I said.
The villain's intent?
Well, anybody's intent. It seems like you can break the timeline and be guilty of breaking the timeline.
Okay, yeah.
Without having had any intent, as Loki clearly did not. To break the timeline. He didn't know it. In fact, he said, look, the Avengers did it. The Avengers broke the timeline. I just picked up the Tesseract. That's all I did. I had no idea of knowing I was creating
They were ready to kill him for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing I didn't quite understand about that was the idea that they made a very big distinction between pruning, which clearly was zapping somebody out of existence, and resetting, which to me seemed to indicate that you just put this person back in the timeline. Yeah. But there's that in part there where Loki says to Owen Wilson, you can't put me back, can you? And Owen Wilson kind of looks at him with that, yeah, no, I can't kind of thing. Now, I think obviously as we watch the series, what we're going to see is that as Loki does good, he's going to redeem himself and in some way be inserted back somewhere. But I don't understand the difference between resetting and pruning. You both seems to be a death sentence. Is it just me?
Okay, back to your previous question. How did Loki break the timeline?
Unintentionally. By picking up the Tesseract.
And taking himself out? Or taking the time stone out?
No, he didn't have the time stone.
The space stone.
So the moment that he picked up that stone and traveled with the Tesseract, that created a new timeline.
Yes.
Right?
Okay, so by him taking himself out with the Tesseract out of his timeline, that broke it.
Correct.
And I think their justification is that, again, the deal with the Avengers is we take these stones, we return them back to the exact point in time. When Loki took that stone, it stopped the Avengers. That's the one stone that the Avengers could not return back to the timeline from which it was taken and restore balance.
Right.
So,
and don't forget, his life was already lived, and that aspect happened in the past, which he broke from that.
Okay, so why couldn't he be taken from where he's at right now and just put back in the timeline?
Because I think, and that's my question as well. It's like, why can't you just reset him and put him there? Because they seem to be saying that you can't. Now, that question might be answered as the series goes on, but I think in the current standard, you have to understand, or at least assume, I would suppose, that now that you have a knowledge of the TVA, now that you have a knowledge of what you've done, now that you've seen your entire future, it's going to affect your actions.
Because now he knows how his life plays out. Can he be put back there? It might be why he said, we can't put you back.
And because he's in 2012. That's 2012 Loki. So,
right.
Yeah.
And put him back in 2012. Like when the beginning, when they go back to Endgame and they show the scene where he disappears. But the last thing you hear is Thor saying, Loki, looking for him. Well, they'll put him back like somewhere else in the building and say, hey, look, I found him. He's right here.
Well, the question is, but if you put the Loki that exists now back in the timeline now, does he send the Dark Elves to the wrong room?
He has all that now. Does he follow his path knowing all this has to happen?
Exactly.
How can he do this and let his mother die? Everything that happens with Thor and everything else.
Right.
That's the genius of this.
Can be put back. Okay.
That's that craziness of it, too. Yeah.
So I have a question.
Okay.
So if we're talking about resetting timelines and everything that comes with that, so we're making the assumption that whenever an event happens that breaks the grand timeline?
Sacred
timeline. And it creates a new timeline.
A variant.
A variant. And the TVA come in. Now they come in and they delete that timeline. Now we just spent like 18 movies establishing that snapping half the universe out is bad. They literally just stamped out a whole universe whenever they reset the timeline. They killed everybody.
It clearly is a very selective mythology, as most mythologies are. I mean,
that's fair.
You know, you go back and watch the first Nightmare on Elm Street. How do you take away Freddy Krueger's powers? You don't let him believe that you're scary, and that's it. Now you have the means by which to defeat the villain. So what happens? The second movie, you have to figure out a way to bring him back, and then those things don't work anymore. And then you keep bringing him back, and so you have to keep changing the mythology in order to keep perpetuating stories that you've
the franchise
boxed in. Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So I think that's what we're seeing here, and I think you're 1,000% right about that, Alan, is because clearly there's a variant Gamora running around.
Yeah.
There's an unnecessarily dead Black Widow. Steve Rogers, for some reason, the Timekeepers are just letting him live his variant life.
He just fought himself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But not just that, just living out a variant existence, getting old with Peggy Carter.
Yeah.
Agent Carter, yep.
Yeah. I mean, so clearly they look the other way when people are intentionally breaking a timeline.
Yes.
But if somebody accidentally breaks a timeline that they had no reason to suspect would cause, a rupture in the time-space continuum, a la Loki, that's a bad thing, punishable by death. But Steve Rogers,
Wait, hold on. Now, we just went over the whole thing about why they can't put Loki back in that timeline because he has all this future knowledge. Steve is living back in the 1940s with all his future knowledge.
I agreed.
Of everything that happens.
Mm-hmm. That's all right.
But don't forget, they also told you that you can't. This is something they established in the last Avengers movie, Endgame, that you can't affect your past actions. This isn't Back to the Future, where if you go back in time, you undo everything you did. What you did is already done. Remember, they made a whole thing about letting you know that. So
yeah,
I think they're trying to have their cake and eat it too a little bit.
I agree with that. But you know what they need? Jean-Claude Van Damme. We need Time Cop to jump in there.
That's what I said. We need to get Doc Brown. We need to get Doc Brown on the show.
I still dancing. It must be on Broadway.
But all things considered, I mean, because we're getting off on.
No, it's a weird.
All
space
things,
and time is crazy.
This is why I hate time travel. Too many tangents. No, I got another one that's biting on me right now.
I love time travel. I absolutely love it, and I love getting into the weeds when it comes to this stuff. I really do. So I want to hear what you have to say. I just want to say, all things considered, this is really well done for something that you understand that they have to figure out a way to keep something going, even though rules have been established in previous, and they do a good job enough of bending but not breaking, I would say. But go ahead.
Okay, back to Loki breaking the timeline. So he broke the timeline by basically Tesseract leaving it. Goes to the TVA. Remember how they tried to basically zap him and burn him up like Grandmaster did?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you do that, wouldn't it be irreparably damaging the timeline? Now you can't. Now you have no option to put him back where he was and fix the timeline.
Did that.
Well, so when a timeline is broken, basically that timeline is.
Okay, no, hold on.
Pardon me.
You killed the timeline.
Slow down.
What happened?
So is it not possible? All right, so we just, at the very end of this episode, we got a clear indication that there are multiple Lokis. Mm-hmm. Is it possible that once you evacuate your timeline, once you've gone off on a different path, that by necessity, since they've already admitted that there's a second Loki out there, that by necessity you've created a second Loki that may not quite be you, but is a Loki now inhabiting your existence, because when you take it, and I don't know, I'm speculating.
But it can happen. That's a Back to the Future kind of thing where it repeats itself.
It's possible.
He broke away. He figured out how to get out. The bad one did. If that
because I'm like,
case.
I'm 1,000% with you, Kirk. I agree. Once you remove yourself from the timeline, then how do you make sure the Dark Elves go to here and that Thor wins, against his sister? Like all the things that Loki helped, and boom, he's been removed from the timeline. How can he help do all that stuff?
Well, I think they destroy that timeline. That's what I was alluding to. That whenever something like that goes out of place, they literally just come in and destroy the timeline. So there is no Loki in that timeline because there is no timeline at that point. So, and I guess that's what they mean when the TVA exists outside of time. That's why you can have multiple Lokis. Now, I don't understand how this Loki got away, the one that they were supposedly tracking or whatever. That's the bigger mystery to me. If supposedly they're as efficient of a entity as they are.
Maybe when this Loki, instead of like when he had the chance to break out, he didn't. He went and looked at his life film.
So does that mean there's multiple TVAs now? I don't know.
I'm just saying, like maybe this one like got out and was like, I'm out of here. I mean, I don't, like you said, that's one of those things that could make you nuts.
He had the capability of breaking out and chose not to.
And because remember once he watched it, he sat down and he was like, man, I'm the bad guy. And then Owen Wilson came out and was like, you could tell he was like, okay, now you get it. We have to talk. I mean, maybe there was another version that he tried this with and it didn't work, because the whole line itself is crazy. It's a guy that was picked from another variant already, 2012, when he was already captured. He's already lived his full life. Literally, he lived to the end of his life, And so now you have this other one. This one gets plucked out. They're just pretty much trying to, I think, tie up things in a nice little bow and just kind of make an extra franchise out of it, which I'm with that,
Okay, so again, this is something that we can debate until the cows come home, because I do think
we should probably wrap it, huh?
Well, not necessarily wrap it, but at least wrap this portion of it, because there's so many directions that we can take this into. And clearly this was just episode 1. There's 5 more episodes to go. So one of them might have an answer to at least one of the trillions of questions.
Oh yeah, hopefully
We just
so.
raised that might help us better speculate as to what happens. But clearly, obviously, at the end of the day, this timeline's going on because of money.
Oh, that's true.
Yes.
Sure.
That's the green stone.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
They're going to do their best to make it make sense as much as possible. But at the end of the
we're,
day,
we're sitting here on a Thursday night
Right.
talking about it, so whatever they do is working.
Exactly.
It's working really well.
as long as they've gotten it, it doesn't even have to be the bullseye. Just as long as it's close to where it's good enough, I'll overlook this much.
Yes.
Then we can move past it. So let's try and get past this, knowing that we don't know everything there is to know, knowing there's several different directions you can take this argument.
H.G. Wells, we don't know him.
What are some of the things about this? What floored you the most?
Floored you.
Lord.
Yeah. What about this episode floored you? Like, where you're just like, whoa, that is really cool. Because I don't like the idea of going back to what I said before, but that whole scene between Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston, I was hanging on every word when they cut to that D.B. Cooper
Oh
scene.
my god,
Oh, that was
nice.
funny.
That's what I was going to bring up. Because it was cool. I don't know how much more
Is
you can do
anybody
with
my
it.
age going to know about
I
what
was
D.B.
ex-
Cooper is? That's the real question.
I was expecting
Yeah.
a little bit more out of it. And that's thought about that too. Is like they don't give you much story about that. So if you don't know the story of D.B. Cooper, somebody
I
your
think if you
age,
check
you probably
Google-
lost.
Yeah. Well, it was a little bit of a bummer to find out that was just a bet. I was hoping it would have been.
The trailer kind of built up to be a little bit more, so I thought it would be more. Just
Yes.
I lost a bet with Thor. Okay, so
It was like
Yeah.
almost like it was going to be like a quantum leap thing where Loki is jumping into
Right.
different things and he does different things that causes things and it becomes things that are completely
Be a
unexplainable.
literal time
And
heist.
but yeah, now you
That would be
understand.
awesome. Yeah.
As just
Yeah,
a little
man.
side scene where it was like it was like, hey, yeah, we did it as a bet. That could have totally been a deleted scene. Like if that was a movie, that probably would have been a deleted scene because it added nothing
Right.
outside of how cool is that.
Look at that shot.
next thing,
Boom.
next best he's gonna lose. Loki has to be in a Bigfoot costume, walking through the woods, and somebody take a picture.
You know somebody
Somebody
on that writer's team is from Oregon, and they're like, you know what we should do? D.B. Cooper. And everybody in the room went, you know what, that's a great idea.
Like it, sell it, put it in print.
I gotta imagine some guy had a vision as to how to incorporate it into the overall story where this was a necessity, where he found himself on a plane and he had to do something.
Took camping trips when he was a kid, and he was like, you know what? I'm not going to... Nobody ever find D.B. Cooper. He was actually Loki. Now.
Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
Yeah,
Right.
dude, I dare you.
So yeah, I did enjoy that though. It was so cool to see him kind of play that up. I wish it was a little bit more than a bet. I mean, it seemed kind of such a shallow way to present that. But that aspect of it, that was really the heart and soul of it to me.
No, I can see that. I mean, that again, that was a good definition of him as a character and what he did. I mean, if you didn't really have any love for him, you had to have it there.
He must have got a mischief. You know,
Yeah.
we never really see
Yeah.
that mischievous side. He's always like the Loki that we know in the movies has been very grand plandy and you know, kind
Showboaty.
of this lawful evil character that's just walking around, you know, scheming. But we never really saw the Loki that turns into a snake and bites Thor, and I think that was kind of like a, kind of
Oh,
a
look, a snake. Ah, it's me.
throwback to that part of the relationship.
That's a funny scene.
It's me.
That's why I love the questioning so much. You're like, all right, so you're ruling Asgard. Now you're ruling me. Now what? I'm going to rule the nine realms. Okay, space. What a great thing. Now what? Are you happy? Like the whole idea, like what makes you happy? The way Owen Wilson was just breaking him down and tearing him apart just to kind of get to the essence of who are you? So I know that if I'm going to hitch my wagon to your star, if I'm going to bring you in, if I'm going to make you a partner here, I understand that deep down to your core. And the fact that he does it and in such an effective way where Loki actually watches his own death on film. Again, that interrogation room, anything and everything that happened in there was great.
Let me ask you something really quick. Like when you heard his name, it was Mobius. Did y'all think he was gonna turn into a vampire? Or was that just me?
That's Morbius.
I was going to say.
Yeah, that's what I thought they said.
No, it said
No,
Mobius and then
Mobius
Morbius.
and Mobius. He's actually a character from the comics.
Mobius M. Mobius.
That is Mobius, like the artist. Okay, well
Yeah.
that's what. All right, never mind. I watched it later.
Like the techno artist. From the
No.
Disneyplus?
There's an artist. There's an actual artist. named Mobius.
Moby?
No. Yeah, he's a good guy too. I like his music. Okay, well, fine. Never mind that. I thought that's what I thought I heard the name was.
It was reminiscent of it in some fashion, but I didn't take
you
it.
say it quick, and you're like, oh, shoot.
Comic minutia. You ever seen the character Mobius and Mobius from the comics?
I don't think so.
He was in the TVA. He was based on visually and his character on Mark Grunwald. You remember him, right?
Mark Grunwald is like who's like editor,
writer and editor.
He was the continuity.
He was a continuity guru for Marvel Comics.
Okay.
And TVA was and Mobius was based on him. He's the guy who died back in the 90s, I think, or 2000, early 2000s, and his wish was to have his ashes mixed in with the ink of a comic book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was him.
Okay. Oh, there you go, a little tidbit.
Interesting.
Anyway, so can we get any love for the Jimmy Woo of this series?
The dude that was gonna be
Casey?
gutted like a fish.
Casey, come on, how funny was he?
Not too funny.
I loved him.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I love that character.
He had his moment.
What's a fish?
I mean, I didn't.
Yeah, I thought it was
I
weird.
hope they bring more out with him.
I'm sure they will.
I wasn't like laughing out loud or anything like that, but I also wasn't necessarily annoyed. It was just kind of like, okay, I see what they're doing.
I like the police. I like the lady that was like handling Loki for a bit.
And then he got the upper hand on it.
Yeah, and then she
Started
was
tripping her out.
Yeah, and then she was like, she was like, oh shh, and then like she showed up somewhere else. I thought that dynamic between them two was pretty funny. I'm sure that's going to occur again because that's got to be the person to try to set them straight. But I thought that was good. I did find that amusing more so than little Jimmy Woo guy. I don't know. I didn't.
I liked it.
I ain't get that,
I
man.
funny.
They don't do them cats much justice though. Like, how you work in a time place and you don't know nothing? You like never seen a fish before? You telling me that? You know what I mean? I ain't buy that.
we got those stones all over the place. They use them as paperweights.
Yeah, that's
Can I have one of them things?
That made me so bad.
But that
Give me that power one right there.
Yeah,
Blue.
I like that blue one. Turn it into a snowball.
But isn't that again? And I think y'all are getting so caught up in these Infinity Stones that where I think we're dealing with a higher purpose. They're pretty much. I mean, the point of what you're dealing with in this episode is life predetermined? Has there been a group of gods, so to speak, out there who have decided what your life is going to be, and your free will doesn't mean anything? You remember there was a point where Loki's like says something to that judge, and it's like, this isn't how it's supposed to, and she's like, this isn't your story. And then when he sits there with Owen Wilson or Mobius, or whatever you want to call him, where he's like, all you do is help others become who they ultimately become. You make other people better. You're not the star of this story. And I think that is such an intriguing thing that they're kind of getting into here is all life predetermined? Like, does free will not matter?
Isn't one above all? Isn't he part of the TVA? I thought I read that somewhere.
One above all.
That's like Marvel's version of God.
Okay.
Oh, he who makes himself or something like that.
Yeah.
He who remains.
I'm gonna have to Google it.
Yeah,
He's the one that created the time.
Right, he's the one that created the timekeepers or and all that stuff. But it's like, yeah, he who
Like the end of time, I think.
Yeah, but but see what I'm saying? Like,
one above all.
No, I thought it was
The creator of the multiverse is what is. That's some real.
That's too much.
That's some real deep Marvel. That's some like late '80s Marvel trying to.
That's some Doctor Who crap.
It's a thing from forever.
I was like reading an article on Reddit earlier, and they were talking about like this might be the first time we see one above all, and I was like, isn't that Marvel's version of God? Like I don't
know, but if I ever become a rapper, that's gonna be my name.
One above all.
One above all.
I would never fall.
That's the same people that when in Guardians 2 when Peter Quill kind of got taken over by ego and looked up, had the stars in his eyes, and said he saw eternity. Everybody said, "Oh, look, it's eternity. Is that cosmic being from Marvel Comics?" Like, I don't think they'll be going that way.
Yeah. No, they're not going to have a budget to, I think, make like a God. Like I think not the proper way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know what the budget it takes to make this stuff, but that's pretty much as far as your imagination visually can go as to what you can afford, I think. Now, as far as what you're saying about like it being a thing of free will and what's controlled and determined. I mean, still free will is I think is a part of this, because otherwise you're not a variant. There's no story if you don't have free will. It's just a matter of who determines how far you get to have a variant timeline. I mean, if you pass gas, apparently you could get zapped for that. You know,
well, no, it's more than just that.
The wrong person's not supposed to smell it. You're in trouble.
But
it
okay,
was a small example, but it's pertinent. You know,
I don't think that's what they were going for there. I think they were kind of going above and beyond to illustrate to you that you want to rule. You think this is your story. You think that your job is to rule as a god. No. Your job, this is not your story. Your job has always been to get everyone over. You think you're Stone Cold Steve Austin. You're really Barry Horowitz. That's how the universe sees you. And that is what your role and your function is, despite your highest aspirations and everything that you do to achieve them. We are putting you here. I mean, that was... I think that was made abundantly clear.
Yeah, no, in that dialogue, because that's what he's like, well, I'm the villain, you know, and once they have everything laid out. But that's just pretty much laid out.
He said himself, he's like, for somebody who wants to rule so much, you kind of lose a lot. You know,
so if that's Loki's reason for being, basically, what happens to the Avengers without him?
That timeline's gone. It don't matter.
Yeah, well, I mean...
So that timeline, once he broke it, that timeline was reset. That's what resetting a timeline means?
That's what I was saying, why it's so messed up. They killed all them people. They all dead. Mm-hmm. We just spent 20 movies. Thanos did half, and they were real mad about it. And then we're watching these guys and cheering them on because they zapped that timeline out of existence.
So by picking up the Tesseract, which pretty much fell at his feet, he doomed an entire timeline.
That's my theory anyway.
It's a possibility. It is you can't discount that as being a possibility. That absolutely could be what they're going. I don't think that's what they're going for. I don't think that's going to be what happens. But I do think that there is a reasonable possibility that they go down that route.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I think this MCU phase, so to speak, is one of... this is my opinion though, strictly my opinion, is one of, we don't know what we're doing, so we're going to just try a whole bunch of stuff because the core of our franchise is kind of broken apart.
No.
Yeah.
That is not what they're doing. They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing in the sense of saying, hey, we're going to take these characters here to do what we can to build them up. But they can't follow through with what they've already made. They can't do it.
Yeah, they got to take a bunch of B-listers and make them into A-listers now.
The core characters are gone now.
You got to be fair. Again, it's you're remaking Jaws. At some point in time, a shark has to show up in Jaws 2. It's improbable that another shark's going to show up, but you have to make that shark show up. You have to make Michael Myers live again in Halloween. You have to make Jason come back, despite the fact that he was blown up. You always, unless you want them to stop making Marvel movies, they have to figure out a greater threat. You have to perpetuate the threat.
I understand.
And that's all they're doing.
I understand. Well, they have to make a story. But the problem is that, you know, it works when they say, here are the phases of the movies we're doing. I think if they had just stopped right when the movie, you know, right when this phase 4 is over, and then just say, okay, boom, we're making, you know, 1.5 or whatever all over again, then maybe you have something different. But just by saying, here's phase 5, and that's not disputed, then that gives the instance of a continuum. Even in those examples you made, you're right. There's, you know, Halloween 1, 2, 3. There's George 1, 2, 3, and 4. But like they can say, okay, well, here's a different set of characters. They're here in the water, this and that and the other. And, but you know, this is where these things are raised.
I mean,
but
all the characters from the earlier phases are still here, except for two. Steve Rogers and Iron Man.
Two main ones.
Everybody else is still here. Well, T'Challa's not here anymore. That's nature. But everybody else is still moving on. Plus, you're bringing in new ones. I mean, when Guardians was first introduced, who knew who Guardians of the Galaxy was besides comic book readers? Nobody did. Look how popular it became. We don't know if that's not going to happen with the Eternals, with Shang-Chi. We don't know. But don't know that may,
I know we can't walk
happen.
into
it
that.
may happen. Plus, they will bring the Fantastic Four in eventually.
I think that's where this is leading more than anything.
Sure.
They
Well,
will,
yeah,
they
I can
will
see
bring.
making a
They will
multiverse.
bring the X-Men in eventually. So I mean, it's gonna come back again. If
It'll work itself. It's gonna work
They-
itself
it'll
out.
stop.
But you know what I'm saying? It's just making a continuum of it is what is so
I think
crazy.
I think you're being way too harsh. Like, look, you saw those early movies.
Nah.
You saw, Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Yeah.
You've seen, what you call it, Iron Man 3. You've seen Captain America's. All the ones that you've seen, there have been legit plot holes in everything.
But this is I'm not saying that as a show, this thing has nothing
saying-
is perfect.
But that's what I'm saying. It's
But-
like you've got to respect that there's some talent and there's some thought being put in. They're not just saying willy-nilly, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and redo this whole thing and we're going to say this happened and that happened. They're trying to establish something. And if there are occasional things that we can spot out and say, that's a little bit off, well, we were doing that during the original timeline.
All right, well, tomato, but just don't take the biggest event that you had and you made all this money from, and then just kind of say, okay, we're just going to keep riding that because that wave kind of died.
No, you have to do that. How do you top WrestleMania 10?
You can't
With
discount.
WrestleMania 11.
But you got
How do you top WrestleMania 11?
You got to build up
WrestleMania
to
12?
another WrestleMania.
And every WrestleMania, oh my God, this is the biggest sports extravaganza in the world.
No, you know what happens is like, okay, let's say they have the event, and the event culminates to like wrestling, whatever, and then like they have like one other event after that, whereas like you kind of get a repeat of that scenario, and then once that scenario happens, that storyline stops, and then they move on to the next thing. And I guess that's what I'm saying is there's nothing wrong with what they're doing, but now they're trying to incorporate it into something that already stopped. So that's what makes it that's what makes the holes like gap so big.
But you can't discount. I'm sorry, I didn't
Go
interrupt
ahead.
you. You can't discount the effect that the real world dumpster fire that 2020 has affected this. Because if all these three series would have came out starting last year, and there wouldn't be such a big gap between them and Endgame, it probably wouldn't be that bad. Like Black Widow. Honestly, right now, I cannot care less about seeing Black Widow.
Yeah, but
I'm not paying $30.
But they were going to make Black Widow.
But if it would have
after
came
what
out within
already
a year or
happened.
so of Endgame like it was supposed to, I might be a little more invested.
I would've,
I
yes.
don't care less about Black Widow right now.
Wait, but come on.
1000% agree.
all these other movies, Falcon and Winter Soldier is supposed to come out before WandaVision. WandaVision is supposed to be after that. You have less of a gap, less of a time for us to be occupied with other things besides the MCU. Then maybe that gap wouldn't be as big.
Yeah, because they went from releasing an MCU movie every 4 months to an
Yes.
18
Right.
month.
Totally, yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
But in those senses, it was easier to say, okay, well, we miss, Tony Stark and we miss, Captain America. But that's on a human level. Mm-hmm. That's easy to convey, and that's easy to have to, push forward. I mean, yeah, you can say whatever you want, but on the grander scale, all those people that pretty much died. I've already said that. They've never addressed what happened when they got blipped out of existence. I think that would be a crazy story to kind of discuss. That's like afterlife stuff. That would never, be discussed.
Because it's too depressing.
What is it? Well, that's fair.
I think they kind of did.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of addressed it. Everyone was miserable.
Yeah.
There was
They got
no
lucky as
threat.
people were. They missed all 2020.
I'm just like, it worked out. But like, I don't think, having what happened in 2020 did suck, but I think they did hit a point of like, we don't really know where to go from here. So even if I wouldn't have mind seeing the Black Widow movie just because I'm like, well, I'm hungering to see another Marvel movie. I always support a Marvel movie. But yeah, you couldn't have figured if you were going to give her a shot, put it in like right before she's going to die, just kind of kill something.
And the only saving grace like the movie's going to have, as far as I'm concerned, is if it does something that leads into the next movies, like they introduce some more characters that are going to carry on, like somebody else becomes Black Widow.
Oh, you lead him
leads
over.
on. And I heard Robert Downey Jr. is supposed to be in this one. as Tony Stark.
Wow, that's cool.
That's cool.
Because remember, it does take place, I think, after Civil War, maybe between Civil War and Infinity War, something like that.
Well, I mean, to your point, Edo. Again, Loki died in way before Black Widow died. He just debuted a series and knocked it out of the park.
Absolutely. Yes,
So,
because
I mean,
he found the Tesseract while he was alive. That's
So,
crazy stuff.
so to be able to sit there and say, well, the whole thing with Black Widow, like it's kind of, I'm with you. I would have preferred to see it when I was kind of invested in that storyline. But at the same time, you've seen enough to have a good faith. Marvel has given you enough, and I guess that's where I'm coming at.
Okay.
There's very few films out there where you can point at in the Marvel universe, if any, where you're like, yeah, you know what, Marvel, screw you. I ain't giving you my money on that anymore. I would say Iron Man 3 deserves to be in that category.
Thor, Dark World.
Dark World, almost, but then they came around, they redeemed themselves with Ragnarok.
You talk about like saving the franchise of each one that they
Not
did.
necessarily saving the franchise, where it's like, you know what, you don't get the benefit of my good faith anymore, Marvel. Like, even when they do a bad film, they still tie in continuity. Now, when you take the Mandarin and you turn him into a joke,
Oh, God.
yeah, then that's a whole different other thing. And I think that is, yes, you don't get my good faith, because now I don't trust you with my Marvel entertainment, because now you've blown the opportunity to see Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man go up against Ben Kingsley or whoever the hell it was going to be the Mandarin's. Man, I wanted to see that.
Freaking Gandhi. Wasn't he Gandhi? They just made it weird.
Well, Gandhi, no guy. I wanted to see him fight a man.
No Gandhi.
He was the Mandarin was
I want to see
Iron
us
Man's
fight.
biggest villain.
Yes.
So we all wanted to see that. So anyway, I think we're getting too far down the rabbit
I'll
hole.
bring it back.
Right.
So Loki, though, instills your faith into this fifth Marvel phase, right?
It's got me more intrigued. Like, I felt like I knew where Falcon and the Winter Soldier was going from episode 1. I knew where that was happening at. Like, I don't know where this is going, but I suspect if logic bears out, I suspect there's another villain involved outside of just multiple Lokis.
I agree.
Because that would be so boring. Somebody's making these multiple Lokis. Somehow these multiple now again, it could be happening. Like I said, you removed yourself from a timeline, so they had the timeline replicates a Loki, and now that's why we get a different Loki. Something happens there. That could be what happens. But I have to imagine there's somebody puppet stringing all this.
There's a variant. I do like that name.
And I just don't think it's just another female Loki, because that would be so hokey.
Hey,
Loki.
nice. You're a poet, and your mom know it.
There it is.
So yes, if that's where this is going at the end, it's just like, hey, we did all this to have female Loki. He's already gender fluid. I'm good.
Okay. All right. So then we'll wrap it up. I ask this last question.
Sure, go ahead. You got any last question?
Okay. So how, if you had to rate a scale 1 to 5, how pumped are you to see the next episode
5.
of Loki?
Oh, for sure, 5.
Oh, definitely 5.
5, all the way across the board.
Yeah.
That's 20.
That's 20. Okay. All right. Well, look. Thank you. Right? Is this good?
Yeah, let's close it out.
Okay, cool. All right, so look, thanks for joining us, Moweekend Nation, YouTube viewers out there, and keep watching. Don't forget to subscribe.
Like, share, and subscribe. Smash
That's
that
right.
like
Yeah, we want to hear what you guys got to say. We covered a broad base of Marvel stuff.
That's it.
This is a new thing we're trying, so I think it's a great opportunity for the community to get involved. So we want to hear what you guys got to say.
Yeah, and if y'all aren't missing Lee or Kevin all that much, let us know.
Yeah.
We can get rid of him. We're flexible.
If you rather the young, short, color beard,
Young Lee.
let us know.
That's it.
That's right.
That's it. Tell us how you like what we do and subscribe to what we love so we can do what you love for us to do.
We'll bring Lee in just so you can see him wandering around the background. That's fine. We can do that.
But like us before you
He
get
could be
to
a
see
homeless
that.
guy in the background.
Yeah.
That's it. All right. Well, look, thanks, y'all, and tune in for the next episode. Good night.
Night.